Has anybody ever seen God? Well, no. And Christians have never claimed that our belief in the incarnation of Christ and the Trinity doctrine means that people have seen God. God is spirit. And the Apostle John declared in John 1:18, "No one hath seen God. The only begotten Son, who is on the bosom of the Father, he did declare, he made him known." And so, to give a crude analogy that we can maybe relate to here in the modern world, if I was to give you an avatar of myself here on the internet, is that the same as seeing me, or are you seeing a representation of me? Or even if you see my photo, are you actually seeing me? No, you're seeing a representation of me. And the same is true for God. When God comes as a man, appears as a man, you're not seeing God in his true form and as a spirit. No one can see God. And the same would be true even for an angel. Angels are ministering spirits, and yet they appear as a man. And if angels can appear as a man, then most certainly God could do the same thing. Now, it doesn't appear that the incarnation of Christ is the first time that God has manifest himself as a man. In Genesis 3:8, and I'll read from Young's Literal, it says, "And they hear the sound of Jehovah God walking up and down in the garden at the breeze of the day, and the man and his wife hid themselves from the face of Jehovah God in the midst of the trees of the garden. And Jehovah God called out unto the man and said, Where art thou?" Now, Orthodox Jews and certain Christian sects that would say believe Jesus is an angel or something like that will interpret this as God actually revealing himself in a cloud or something of that nature. But, that really is a tortured interpretation of that, because they hear God walking in the garden and they're hiding from his face. And, they don't want him to see him. And God even is calling out, "Where are you?" As if, if God, was walking as a man, well, that would make sense that he would call out and ask, "Where are you?" Rather than if he was appearing as a cloud, he would just shout out from the cloud wherever they were hiding, right? So this is a manifestation of God appearing as a man, walking and talking in the garden and confronting Adam and Eve face to face. We're hiding from his face. And that does not violate the idea that nobody has seen God, because this is a manifestation of God. God can manifest himself any way he wants to. He's at least as powerful as the angels, and angels can do this, so we know that this is well within God's capability to manifest himself as a man. And we see this again in Genesis chapter 18, when God appeared to Abraham, and it says that Abraham looked up and he saw 3 men standing, and he ran from his tent to greet them. And one of these men was God, Jehovah God. And we see Abraham bargaining with God about Sodom and Gomorrah. He's worried about his nephew Lot. He says, he's saying, well, what if there's some righteous people there? Will you destroy it if there's people who aren't wicked there? Will you sweep away the just with the unjust? And so as this conversation continues, we see in verse 33, and it says that when God finished talking with Abraham, he left, and Abraham went to his home. And we see this in context of God appearing to Abraham as one of these 3 men. So where did the other 2, the angels, go? There was 2 angels with them. Well, they show up right at the beginning of chapter 19. And it says, the 2 angels arrived at Sodom in the evening, and Lot was sitting at the city gate. And so then we go through the whole story of them trying to rescue Lot from the city. And the 2 angels were charged with that responsibility. But God himself did not appear to Lot, only 2 angels. When the 3 men appeared to Abraham, one of them was Jehovah God. And we see this in Genesis 18, verse 10. It says, one of them said, I am coming back about this time next year, and when I arrive, your wife Sarah will have a son. And we see in verse 13 that this is God talking to Abraham. It says, God said to Abraham, why did Sarah laugh? And so this conversation is going on with God, manifesting himself as a man with these two angels. And as we read over to chapter 19, as the story continues, we see that the two angels arrived at Sodom. It identifies the other two as angels, but the other one is identified as God. One of them is God, two of them are angels. And so that is very clear in the context of the passage. It identifies who is God and who are the angels. So Christians, we don't need to interpret this away. The idea of God manifesting himself as a man does not violate the concept that nobody has seen God, that God is a spirit. God can manifest himself as fire. And if we're seeing fire as Moses did, does that mean that Moses saw God? No, he saw a manifestation. Just like if I show you an avatar of myself on the internet, that's not you actually seeing me, that's you seeing an avatar. And that's a crude analysis, but because obviously God can manifest himself in much more spectacular ways. He can manifest himself any way he wants to. And he graciously came as a man and became one of us in a very real way through the incarnation. And the incarnation is not at all dependent on these, verses in Genesis where God appears as a man, but they're not a problem for Christians. We don't have to explain these away. And this does not violate the idea that nobody has seen God. Seeing God manifest himself as a man or anything else is not seeing God as a spirit. No one can see God. God is a spirit, and his true self will never be visible in that sense. But we have seen the Son who has revealed him to us, and so I hope that kind of clears things up. Christians don't believe that anybody has seen God in the sense that God is a spirit, but God has manifested himself in the past in Genesis to Adam and Eve, to Abraham, and he has manifested himself as a man in Jesus Christ through the incarnation, and he came to be our Savior. God himself, he didn't send an angel, he didn't send anybody else to do his work. God himself came and did this work as Jesus Christ. And thank you for watching, and God bless you.